Well, good afternoon everyone, and I hope you enjoyed that seriously close-up view of a beautiful Burchell starling, glistening purple and blue in the afternoon sunlight here at Ximhungwe Private Game Reserve. It's a wonderful winter's afternoon, and it's good to have you on board with myself, Scott, and I'm teamed up with Andrew on camera today. He is using a new camera that we are trying out, and it's got slightly more zoom than the other cameras we use. But the problem is that it doesn't feed a picture to my monitor screen, so I'm gonna have to just telepathically read into what exactly Andrew is filming and then narrate accordingly. Some kudu off to our left here. Really pretty antelope, and I think due to the heat of the day we may get lucky, and they don't appear to be moving much. They're also just relaxing in the shade and appear to be chewing the cud. So I don't think we'll actively see them plucking branches off these trees that they're standing amongst. And if we look very closely at their throat, they will eventually swallow the bolus of cud that they are feeding on, and you'll see it pop down their throat. And then, now watch closely, you'll see the next bolus coming up the esophagus. Oh, not very clearly, but it stopped chewing temporarily until the next bolus of cud. Oh no, now watch closely, watch for the next bolus. It's coming up now. Keep watching. If you blink, you'll miss it. I think she's just stopped to listen, but it's still on the way. Come on. There we go. I think. Or was I imagining things? I guess possibly because she is listening so intently, she's... There we go. The next bolus has just arrived for her to continue to re-chew, and that way make sure she digests the food very efficiently. And this is one of the qualities of ruminants. They get every last little nutrient out of the food that they feed on, unlike other herbivores such as elephants, who have got a far more rudimentary digestive system, and food basically passes out the same way it went in, or looking very similar to the same as it went in. It wouldn't be the same way it went in. Now Brent is also out this afternoon, teamed up with VM, and he's headed across to Arathusa initially, and through default I've kind of been spending more time across there over the last few days, so it's his turn to change the scenery a little bit. And I'm looking forward to exploring Ximhungwe again. And my plan is to head up towards Buffelshoek Waterhole. And on a hot day like this, I'm hoping that we may have some activity down at the waterhole with some animals drinking. So let's carry on heading off in that direction. So for those of you who are not on the sunrise safari, just to give a little bit of an update, no big cats were seen by either Brent or myself, but the Birmingham coalition did pass through a tiny corner of Ximhungwe in the night, and they've ended up in Sibambili, which is a property to the north of Arathusa, and they ended up actually chasing some young male lions and having a fight with some young male lions. It was just radio chatter that I heard, so I'm not too sure on the finer details, and even the guides weren't sure which young male lion they did get a hold of, but apparently they did give him a little bit of a beating. So some interesting stuff happened with regards to the Birmingham coalition, and they keep coming closer and closer to Ximhungwe. So hopefully one of these days they're going to actually not just pass through the property but spend some time here, because it'll be great to see them again. It's a coalition of 5 up-and-coming male lions. And we viewed them quite a lot in November, December and January, but since then they've been spending a lot of time further north in the Manyeleti Game Reserve. And there were some leopard tracks around, but nobody managed to locate them, so maybe we'll get lucky this afternoon. Brent's had a great morning at the hyena den though, and the complexities of their hierarchical structure and all of their social bonding and interactions that occur between them keep to fascinate us and entertain us. And it might be worth popping in there a little bit later. I'd like to spend some time there again. It's been a few days, so that is possibly on the cards for a little bit later. But for now that it's still quite warm, I think it's going to be good just to pop around to the different water holes in the hope that there may be some action there, be it mammals drinking or birds drinking. And speaking of water holes, thanks very much to Kaminka, I think it is, who've sent us through an update quite recently about the Djuma water hole, as there's a live water hole camera there, and she says there's a fish eagle there. So that's good news, and apparently it has been spending a little bit of time there over the last few days, so it's obviously realized that that drying pond is going to be an easy place for it to catch fish. And it might be worth us spending some time there. Imagine if we could capture it hunting a catfish, plucking it out of the water. That would be awesome to share with you. So maybe we'll pop down there and spend some time there this afternoon. Is looking forward to saying hello to all of you this afternoon, so we'll send you across to him and enjoy whatever he has in store for you.
Welcome on this live safari, everyone. My name is Brent, and I have Vim, aka the wildebeest, on the vehicle with me this sunset safari. So just to let you know, Scott and I have traded places, so to speak, and I've come across to Arathusa. I felt like I haven't been here for a while, and Scotty's been coming here quite a bit, and he hasn't been on Djuma for a while. So maybe fresh sets of eyes in different areas will hopefully produce something spectacular. We're busy driving down the Marakini drainage line at the moment, and this was the last place Sindile was seen. So we are checking quite carefully in this area, see if there are any tracks. I know there were tracks of shadow found this morning, but then a big herd of buffalo walked over them, so that'll make them nearly impossible to find again. So we're going to keep going down here. We might go past Arathusa waterhole a little bit later if we don't find any tracks. But welcome to all our regular viewers. Always great to have you on the back of the vehicle. If you are a new viewer, we are live, so you are joining me on a live search for leopards and lions and elephants and all the other wonderful creatures out here in the bush. You can also ask me questions about those wonderful creatures, and you can do that by sending us an email on questions@wildearth.tv, or you can use the hashtag #SafariLive on Twitter. So let's head out and see what we can find. So actually, I think we're going to start with a nearly impossible tree quiz. I don't think I've taught you this one before. James might have, or Scott might have, so I don't know. It's this tree right in front of us. And it is an acacia species. Not one we've looked at before. You see it's got really, really big, long thorns. It's very, very green, even at this time of the year. And I'm going to pick your leaf. I'll show you a bit closer now. But one of the diagnostic features of this acacia is that it is generally only found in drainage lines or along water courses. So that's your clue to help you identify it. I'm going to chop your little branch now so you can have a look at these massive thorns. I'm going to pop it there, and there's the leaf while I jump back into my seat. So you can see incredibly large, thorns, and very, very green throughout the year, and even in the summer months the green sort of sticks out from the others. So there we go, you can see these really long thorns, very sharp. If you ever do stab yourself with acacia thorns, there's a slight poison in them, and it creates a little welter and an incredible itch afterwards. And you can see there's that compound bipinnate leaf of the acacias. So it's called a compound leaf because there's lots of them, little compound leaflets, and bipinnate means they are opposite each other, always opposite each other. So there we go, there's the first little quiz of the day. So you can send your answers for that to the email address questions@wildearth.tv, or use the hashtag #SafariLive on Twitter. Wonderful acacia, one of my favorites, and one I definitely haven't taught to you guys before. Well, let's continue on. Probably not a good idea to leave these in the car. I might sit on them later, but we will keep the little leaflets. So I'm also hoping that we might find some nice birds in this drainage line. Bit cooler down here, lots of nice trees that are evergreen. Obviously there's quite a lot of underground water here, and that's why you do get the trees becoming quite a lot bigger in this area. Unfortunately, no tracks of shadow or sindile yet. I might loop round and check back along the top edge of the drainage line and not in it itself. There's a beautiful large jackalberry here, a really nice big specimen, probably a couple of 100 years old, even maybe a little bit older than that. So there's actually quite an interesting hollow, and I did get asked a while ago where bats might live in the Sabi Sands and in this area, and not the fruit bats, so to speak, but the other sort of smaller bat species, your free-tailed bats. Let's just get a bit closer. Just gonna pop my head up there quickly. Hopefully there are no snakes inside, but we'll have a look. And you can already see bat guano at the base here. So this looks like a really good spot for those little three-tailed bats, those insect-eating bats to live. And it goes so deep that I can't see up, but I can see quite a lot of bat guano down here. So I'm pretty sure that there's some bats living up in this chamber. And also what we can see here is what's caused this chamber is actually fire. Try to break off a piece here. So you can actually see charcoal. You can also draw a picture with it if we wanted to. And obviously you saw my artistic skills trying to draw a leopard track in the sand. Maybe I'll be a bit better in charcoal. But quite a nice hollow here caused by fire. As you can see, the fire has burnt a piece of the tree, but the tree has continued growing. And the fact that I can still get some darkness off this charcoal means it's quite a recent fire, so probably last year. And I did hear there was a very big fire that went through Arethusa in the dry season last year. But it's incredible, beautiful big jackalberry. And if we go up, we can actually see possibly where that chamber terminates. There's a hole there where can you get it from there, Viam?
Yeah, boy.
There we go. And that's possibly where the chamber terminates. And you probably find there's a couple of chambers in there that I can't actually see up, and that's where the bats are living. Beautiful, beautiful tree. Okay, so we have two answers in for that tree, and it is an acacia. One was a flaky thorn, and a flaky thorn actually never gets into a large tree like that, even though that tree has been fed on by elephants. It's never a flaky thorn stays sort of a small bush. We're not going to find any in the drainage line either. They're more up on the sort of laterite soils away from the drainage lines. But we will have a look. If I see one, I'll show you one. And then the other one was a mimosa. It is a mimosa, that is correct. But it is, I'm looking for the specific mimosa. Mimosa is another name for acacias. There's quite a big fight going on at the moment between Australia and Africa. So wattles are also known as acacias. Even though they're sort of quite soft acacias in my opinion, they got no thorns. So somehow Australia put forward a thing that only wattles from Australia could be called acacias, and now there's quite a big fight going on between Africa and that about that, because the first wattles, the first acacias described were actually described in Africa. And so there's quite a big argument at the moment. I'm not sure who's winning. Even if Australia wins, I'm definitely not going to start calling our acacias mimosas. I think I'll stick to an acacia for me. But it's not that. And the flaky thorn, as I said, this one is quite specific to the drainage lines and areas with very good underground water. And I think it is possible that I might be able to catch you on this one. Because I don't think any of us have taught you this particular tree before. no other answers in yet, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit more time to try figure out what it is. Oh, he took off. The little crested barbers. Alright, so guys, I'm going to try and make my way out of this drainage line. There's no sign of tracks of Sindile or shadow. Talking about acacia trees, Judith in North Carolina is just asking, do they have a blossom? They do, and the different acacias have very different blossoms. The one we're trying to identify has a white blossom, sort of a round, beautiful little ball. One of the most incredible things about the acacias is that wonderful smell they give off while when they are in flower. And there are so many very different types of acacia. Here we have another one, an easier one that I'm sure you've all seen before. Quite a nice large knobthorn or Acacia nigrescens. And if we zoom in on that branch over there, you can actually see the knobs on the branch that give it its name. So there we go, that's the knobthorn, another acacia species, one of our more common ones. The one we're trying to identify at the moment is quite exclusive to the drainage lines, and there have been a few more answers. Still no one's got it correct. I think the last was a weeping wattle. A weeping wattle is not an acacia, it's a pultiforum, so it's not the same family, although it does have a very similar looking leaf structure, but the leaves are quite a little bit longer. But not that. And then a prickly acacia is also not that yet. But so while I let you guys mull over it a little bit longer, we're going to go back to Scotty to see what he's been up to, and we'll leave you with a last view of this Acacia nigrescens.
Well, look at this incredibly awesome bird, the African hawk eagle, and that bright yellow eye that you can see glistening as it turns its head in the correct way. Now it's looking good. Is awesome. It's looking out towards its mate, who flew off towards their nest. And aren't we lucky that we know where they are nesting? Sadly, their nest is high up in a knobthorn tree, so we don't have the best views of it, but they are quite close by. Now, I'll be interested if any of you have noticed how there's a large bulge protruding from its upper chest. And birds of prey have what is called a crop. So it's kind of an extra storage system where once their stomach is full of food, if they have been successful in making a kill, or for vultures arriving at a carcass, they have the ability to store extra meat in this crop. And it's obviously had a very successful kill, possibly something like a guinea fowl that you that they would have shared with its partner. But if it's still full, then they did make a considerably sized kill. It wasn't long ago that Brent actually found the remains of a guinea fowl that had in all likelihood been killed by these same birds. It could even be the same pair that we see here at Djuma. They're not highly common, so we're very fortunate to have them nesting here, and we see them quite regularly. And with this new camera we have, it has got some great zoom, so even though we're not that close to it, you guys have got a great visual. Sadly, I cannot see what you're seeing, but I do have my binoculars out. Now it may fly off. It's looking like it wants to move, but what would be preventing it is that full crop, so it's not going to move unnecessarily, but it is kind of looking out towards its mate longingly. Looks like it also could be trying to calculate its plan to get out of this tree. Now, as I said earlier, this is an African hawk eagle, and I'm just told that Grant Levitas would like to know if we get another kind of hawk here called the bat hawk. And we certainly do, but I've only ever seen one specimen here. It was over a few days, but it was the same one, and it was along the Sand River. There are not many parts of South Africa that are well known for high bat hawk populations, but I have seen one here, so we could get lucky one day, Grants. And it's interesting you've asked. I've only been asked that same question once before. You can hear there's not much going on yet this afternoon. The birds haven't begun to call, and I think that could be attributed to the heat that we're experiencing today. But it's going to be worth noticing and taking note of the fact that the bush is going to begin to become louder and louder as we become closer to sunset. So that's something to look forward to. Now, I'm told Brent was giving you a quiz on various acacia trees earlier, and there's one right next to us here, and I want you to take a look at how big its thorns are. And what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and jump out the vehicle to give you a size comparison. I'm just going to do it quite stealthily in order to not chase away this African hawk eagle. It's watching me. But take a look at how big these thorns are. I mean, compared to my finger, absolutely massive. So thankfully though, in terms of driving around and getting punctures or anything, they're quite flimsy, so easy to break. You saw it wasn't much effort to break this thorn. They make useful toothpicks if you need them, so I'm going to keep this for later. But it's actually other plants called sicklebush and plants like that that are not as kind of flamboyant with all these thorns, but they've got small spines that you don't really notice, but because the wood is so hard, those are the ones that we have to avoid driving over to prevent getting punctures. I'm going to have to try and get back in without scaring away our bird. There we go. It's still there. It's not looking completely relaxed, but I think we have managed to do what we needed to do without disturbing it. Sorry, Andrew, because I don't have a monitor, everyone, I'm basically blindfolded and don't know what Andrew's doing.
It's okay.
Okay, well, we will send you back to Brent now as he is ready to tell the correct viewers who got the answers correct for that quiz. Enjoy, we'll see you later.
So welcome back, and there is a flaky thorn which we were just chatting about. As you can see, looks quite different, doesn't really become a big tree, stays a sort of little bush like this, and you can see how peely the bark is and very flaky. Still got those massive thorns on it, but we have someone who got it correct. I actually thought I had you guys properly stumped this time, and Terry got it correct, and it is indeed an Acacia robusta, or a splendid thorn. So the top one here, and they can get to very big trees, and they got those beautiful creamy white flower balls when they are in flower during the summer months. And you can see there's the leaf, very, very green even in the height of winter, and that's quite often where they get their name, the splendid thorn. They can get up to about 20 meters tall, and the wood is actually not very good to be used, because there's a species of wasp that lay their eggs in it, and they can sting quite a lot. Also, wood borers are very big fans of it, especially if there are any dead branches in that. And the wood borer that is found in there is from a longhorn beetle, and they are edible. I have eaten them before, and they actually are quite tasty if fried. So it's basically a big fat white grub, so like a giant maggot. Can get to about this big, locally called mbungu in Shangaan, and mbuyo in Zulu, but they are very tasty when fried. They taste a bit like bacon, but they have the consistency of snot, so it's quite a weird experience. It's sort of like liquid bacon in your mouth, but really, really tasty, and a traditional delicacy out here. So I've actually worked with the tracker who used to look for those borer holes regularly and see if he could find those beetles and then fry them up over the fire, and we'd sit there and eat those big beetle larvae. Basically a big white maggot, but it tastes like bacon, and anything that tastes like bacon's quite good in my in my book. But other than that, the roots are said to be poisonous and are sometimes used as a traditional sort of insecticide sprayed onto crops or mixed with water, but there hasn't been any sort of scientific proof linking that. It could just be a traditional belief. But there we go, Acacia robusta, a splendid thorn. So I know a lot of you guys keep bird lists, and I recommend you should also start keeping a tree list of all the different species we see, and that could be quite fun. See if we can keep adding to that list every drive. And we will get to a point where the tree list might become quite difficult to add to, but that also makes it a challenge for us to find you new and interesting tree species. So we stopped at that really beautiful big jackalberry or African ebony that had the hollow in it that the bats were living in. And Norm was just wondering about how old was that tree. I would probably say that tree's, and I'm estimating now, 700 years, 500 to 700 years old. So a very old tree, and a very beautiful tree as well. Imagine the things that tree has seen over the years. Okay, some of my favorite little critters around here. I think I'm going to find a spot where we can see one in the open a little bit more. Well, see them running down the road, high speed, to the safety of the termite mound. Hello guys, don't worry, We're not here to cause any trouble. Here we go. Dwarf mongoose, the smallest member of the carnivore family in Africa. Whoop. Another little head pops up. So they have been busy foraging for the majority of the day, and at this time of the day they will start slowly moving back towards the termite mound where they will be residing for the evening, and they'll have multiple sort of termite mound homes in their home range that they will live in, depending on how far they roam during the day. You can hear some more calling off in the distance. They are quite spread out at the moment. Oh. Can you hear that little contact call? Just talking to the other mongoose. So they look like they're all disappearing as they move off towards the den. There might be one or two left. Can you see any of them?
One on top, but he disappeared now.
Maybe if we just change our angle a little bit. At the back hole. No shame, a little bit shy of this guy. Okay, well, let's not scare him too much and let's move along. I do love those little guys, they're so incredibly cute. So we've got a few more dwarf mongoose out in the open foraging here. Probably part of the same group. Hop, hop, hop across the road. Hello, little guy. So while we've got this little guy right next to us, very cute little guys. Sharon in Pittsburgh was wondering, do they have a smell like skunks or ferrets? Sharon, most of the mongoose species do scent mark with their anal gland, but their smell is not nearly as strong as like a skunk or a civet. They are quite actually very, I think for a mongoose obviously they'll smell it quite clearly, but from a human point of view we don't smell too much. And he's having a look at the wildebeest there, checking them out. So they've sort of got things figured out. They don't wake up particularly early in the morning, and they wait till it's nice and warm and the sun is out. And they also sort of back at their dens by about 4 o'clock, and especially in the winter months. And you can see how tiny he is. So we're going to do a quick link across to Scotty, who's got a roadblock for you, and we'll be back a little later.
Welcome back, everyone. And these buffalo bulls do not want to make space for us. They are standing on the dam wall here at Ximhungwe, but allowing for some great close-ups of them. We were hoping to show you some red-billed oxpeckers that just took off.
There's still one there.
Oh, can you still see one?
Yeah. Oh, there he flies.
Oh, awesome. It's come even closer. So if we're just a little bit patient, we'll hopefully keep hopping around onto this side of the buffalo's head or body. And all three of them, just like the kudu, are chewing the cud. Look at how pretty that bird is. Are you on it, Andrew?
I'm on it.
And great for you to be able to hear parts of the oxpecker's call now. It's such a useful call to know, because when we're looking for animals and walking through the bush, if we hear that call, we could know that there may be some buffalo nearby. And when on foot, you want to try and avoid these big old bulls. You'll probably notice hundreds of little flies every time the buffalo twitches or moves. And I'm certainly grateful that we don't have that many following us around. It must be seriously frustrating, and that's why every now and then the buffaloes will twitch their ears, trying to keep them away from their eyes. Maybe the oxpecker's calling in some reinforcements. And on this close-up view, you'll notice that very pretty yellow ring around its red eye. Only the adults will have this, and youngsters that were born or hatched rather in November or December last year have yet to get this bright yellow marking. So it'll take them over a year to get this adult plumage. And not only are they pretty birds, but they serve an incredibly important role in this ecosystem. Look at this, this is awesome. And that role is to keep all of the herbivores not parasite free, but certainly help reduce the load of ticks sucking the blood from all of our herbivores. And that's why buffalo and rhino and a lot of the other antelopes will be very tolerant of the oxpeckers. From time to time, when the oxpecker tries to climb into their ear, understandably they get a little bit frustrated and will try and deter them from doing that. As you can imagine, it must be quite ticklish and intrusive for the buffalo.
I'm on the mouth.
And you can see it busy chewing on the cud with that sweaty nose. I'm just going to ask Andrew to pan down to the right, to the water's edge. There's an animal that we don't see very often, especially not out in the open like this, and it's a vervet monkey. And a lot of you often request for us to try and show you these monkeys. So sorry it's taken a while, at least from my side. It's been quite some time since I've seen one. And you can see it's busy feeding. I wonder what it's feeding on. Out of these dried cracks and crevices. Interesting to think that that monkey would be underwater now if it was November or December. This water will fill up considerably in the summer months during our rainy season. And these little monkeys are omnivorous, so there is a chance that it could be feeding on little insects that have died. But I'm guessing it's possibly seed pods blown off trees that are easy to see and collect on this open ground. She takes a few more steps, we're going to get some great reflections of hers in the water. And maybe she'll even have a drink. No, she seems focused more on feeding than drinking at the moment. I think there it might be drinking in another small puddle. Yeah, sadly we couldn't see though. Okay, well the buffalo is not only in our way of going to where we want to go, but it's also in the way of us showing you the monkey. So these buffaloes have made up their own mind. I want to ask Andrew just to pan across to the buffalo on the left. It's got incredible character in its face, and it reminds me a bit of Walter Matthau, actually, who some of you may know. A hilarious actor. And wait until you see his face and let me know what you think. Well, that is a serious face. Look at those wrinkles. He's also got an incredibly pronounced boss, where his horns meet at the center of his head. And very tattered old ears. I'm sure this big old buffalo would have a lot of interesting stories to tell us about the number of lions he's chased away and the amount of buffalo bulls he's also taught a lesson. He looks like he certainly commands a lot of respect. And judging from his very aged and wrinkly face, he could be approaching his 20s, or even slightly above that age. He really does look like he's been around for quite some time. Still in good health though. Still looking big and strong. And as he gets older, it is going to be harder for him to keep condition, especially in these drier months. He looked at me almost as if he heard what I was saying. You know, you'll be fine. I take that back. Okay, good. I've got a huge amount of respect for these animals. At a glance, or if you don't know much about them, you would just assume them to be very much like a cow. But they certainly aren't, so don't be fooled by the very relaxed behavior we're witnessing at now, and almost docile behavior. They are incredibly powerful and are really wonderful animals in terms of what they can actually do to the predators that try and take them down. They will run in, and I've seen buffalo saving other buffalo on a number of occasions, but in some instances it'll just be two lone bulls, one of which a pride of 8 lions took down and was bellowing as they do when they are caught, and this one lone buffalo that it was with came back and chased all 8 of those lions off it. And it wasn't a dissimilar situation from what we saw the other day with Brent. Similar amounts of lions. They had eventually got it to the ground and were choking it, both with a strangulation hold on the air pipe as well as one on the muzzle. And this was the same scenario, but there was one extra lion. The buffalo was down. It was doomed. But one single buffalo came back, chased all those lions off it, and both of them got off and ran off. And surprisingly, when the buffalo that had been brought down ran off, you could hardly even see any scratches or blood on it. I'm sure it had some, but they're incredibly tough animals. And it looks like they want to pass by us, so I'm just going to reverse a little bit, because this might be a bit too steep for them, and we don't want to create any hardships for these old boys. Although the one on the right doesn't look too old. He's going to be a beautiful big bull though. His horns are massive. Let's see if this doesn't help their plans. And what it will do is it will help us to get a view of the monkeys grooming one another in the shade in the background. It's quite a hard to reach spot yourself, I guess, so very thoughtful of the other monkey to be tending to that part of the body. He says it's just humans that kiss. It looked like those monkeys were having a little bit of a kiss there, but I just think it was the angle. Be it lions or hyena or monkeys, I really love watching wild animals show affection to one another. And as great as that is, though, I do want to get Andrew to pan up to a pretty bird that's just landed in the dead tree above the dam. I think it's the same tree potentially that the fish eagle may have flew into earlier from the report we got from Ximhungwe. Isn't that an incredibly pretty bird, especially in this afternoon sunlight? You get a great idea of its coloration, I'm guessing. That red beak glistening in the sun, and also those brown rufous colored feathers. You'll notice a white bar at the bottom part of its wing, indicating to us that this is a female. And I wonder if it's going to come down and drink. Please come down and drink. On cue, I think we may be in luck, but we are going to have to reposition. Oh, it thought about it, but then it continued flying, so let's see if we can creep forward a little bit and see exactly what it's up to. Come on, buffaloes. No ways. Quickly, Andrew. Have you got it?
On the ground.
No, it's in the tree. The dead tree on the far right, to the right of the antennas. Sorry folks, it's very difficult for me without a monitor because I've got no way of guiding Andrew into whatever we're looking at. But you may have heard some calls there, and it was busy vocalizing, and it does a crazy display when it does vocalize, so let's hope it does it again. Well, who knows who it's calling, possibly another mate. And I have actually just spotted one up in the sky, not too far from us. I'm going to keep an eye on it, and it'll be incredible if it comes in from that distance. You can hear the buffalo scratching itself on the one in front of it as they walk past us. That's a go-away bird we can hear calling now. Well, the passenger that I can see off in the distance is a female, so I doubt she would be calling that one. And it's just taken off. Where is it going? It is going to go and drink. Oh, we need to rush. We need to hurry, but I don't think we're going to see this. Oh, Walter. Come on, Walter. Thank you. Sorry, old man. It's a bachelor drinking. It's not something we see very often. Sorry, monkeys. So it's decided to go up and drink at the small little waterhole that's being fed with water as this main Djuma dam dries up. So it's a little bit fussy, that bachelor. She doesn't want to drink the muddy water, and I don't blame her. I would also go for the fresh option if I had the choice. Now, where she landed, I'm not convinced we're going to be able to get a good view of her, but it's certainly worth a try. Quite a steep bank. About 400 buffalo. Welcome everyone. It seems like Scotty's battling a gremlin again, but what a perfect time to come join us here. Viam and I have lucked upon two members of the Big Five in one spot. Over my shoulder there's a big herd of buffalo crossing into Arethusa, possibly the same herd of buffalo that you saw with Scott this morning, and I'm hoping they're going to make their way towards the Arethusa waterhole and have a drink. There's a little guy, and then not 5 meters to the left of us is another member of the Big Five, the biggest member of the Big Five, and we have a nice Eddie Bull. Young Eddie Bull, probably mid-20s. Oh, I can hear more elephants in the distance trumpeting. Somewhere in front of the buffalo. So I don't know if you guys can hear that rumble. It almost sounds like a purr growl. And those are other elephants off to the right. There's one other elephant next to us. But it sounds like they're getting upset with the buffalo. Now, decisions to make. Do we go to the elephants that are making a lot of noise, or we sit here with him for a bit? And I think we'll spend a minute or two here with this nice bull. Looks like he's going to be a big bull one day. Nice, very nice, even tusks. Busy making short work of that bush willow branch. Well, there's a whole breeding herd and actually walking towards us, off to the right. Right on the edge of the herd of the buffalo. Sometimes it's quite fun if we get in close there, because those young bulls like to chase buffalo. So let's go have a look. Another little bull here, but I want to get to where the females are. And that's much closer to this big herd of buffalo. So here come the ellies. These are the ones I think that were making quite a bit of noise. Isn't this great? We've got buffalo in the road in front of us. Nice big herd just beyond the elephants, and these ellies. Fortunately, ellies are crossing out of our area, but the buffalo are crossing in. So, sort of a trade agreement going on here. Now, with these big herds of buffalo,
I know Scotty was chatting about it this morning. We might get lucky, and we're definitely going to search through to see if there's any yellow-billed oxpeckers. So, bye Ellies, enjoy your time to the east of us, and we're going to stay with this big herd of buffalo. Oh, more elephants. There's a tiny baby there. Okay, nice Ellie. So it is. So that's why I stopped, and you see her body language immediately relaxed. And obviously we don't want to okay, nice Ellie. So it is. So welcome back everyone. Apologies for the gremlins that have crept in, but as you can see, we are with this really big herd of buffalo. It's really hard to get a grasp of actually how many buffalo are here. We're in quite thick bush, but I can hear them all around us. There's a brrr, and you can just hear them moving through the grass. Quite an incredible sound. So we are definitely keeping our eyes peeled for a possible yellow-billed oxpecker with this large herd. While we're having gremlins, I'm not sure, some of you might have seen a female that had a collar on, and that female has definitely come through from the Kruger and is more than likely part of TB research. And so what they've done is they've actually tried to give a cure to TB to see if it works on the buffalo. None of that data has been released, so We're not sure what's happening there. It is a huge herd. Everywhere I look, it's buffalo. Guessing a couple of hundred at least. So I am keeping a very close eye for quite a special bird, a yellow-billed oxpecker. And Joan in England actually asked, is there one? Not yet, Joan, but we are keeping our eyes peeled. I'm going to try and get through to sort of the center of the herd, get really amongst the buffalo. Look at this old cow in front of us. She's got quite an interesting, I'm going to try and get a view of her again now. Interesting face. Almost looks like she's going grey. Oh, she's disappearing from us. Trying to find a way through between these trees. Are we okay there? There she is. She's going grey and she's got a very deformed horn. It looks like she's actually gone grey in the face. She's going to turn and look at us now. There we go. Or she's just through there. I actually think she might have a skin condition. Let's have a look in my binoculars. Nope. She's just, she could have a little bit of leucism. If you have a look at that face, it's really, really interesting. It is not that she's missing fur at all in her face. It's actually that it's white. And there's patches of fur on the rest of her body that's white. I've actually seen a nearly all white buffalo in Tanzania, in Mikumi National Park. Oh, yes, madam. And she's obviously broken her horn, and she sees she's got a very unique horn there. Actually, looking at that horn, it looks like she was probably born with a defective horn. But that is actually white fur on her face. And as you can see, that's her calf there. And I can't see any of it on the calf. So maybe some strange recessive gene. She looks a bit grumpy. We'll try and get another view of her. You okay, Vim? Good. Hey guys, our aerial just dropped down there. This is not the best area to view a nice big herd of buffalo. I'd much prefer it on a nice big open place. Just going to try and get through. to have quite a few deformed horns or broken horns. This little guy here is disappearing, and the one to the left. So Eugene was wondering, what is the difference between the two oxpecker species? Give me a second, I'll grab my bird book. So Eugene, some of the diagnostics on the oxpeckers, and especially if you only get a quick glimpse of them disappearing, you don't actually get a chance to see them actual faces and that. If we have a look, the yellow-billed oxpecker has a pale rump, and it has a half yellow bill. It's got a yellow base to the bill with a red tip and a pale rump. The red-billed has a yellow eye ring and a completely red bill and a dark rump. So when they're flying, that is the best way to tell the difference. I've been keeping a lookout, and I'm not seeing many oxpeckers with this herd. A few flying over, but only red-billed so far. We're right in the center of the herd. We literally are now surrounded by buffalo. So if we're going to spot a yellow-billed oxpecker, this is the spot to be. A nice big bull keeping a watchful eye on us. Our buffalo are incredibly important cogs in the ecosystem. As they move through here, their hoof action actually turns up the ground, helps get the grass seeds in it, and as they move, they're huge. I'm guessing there's probably 400 odd buffalo here, but it is very difficult in this thick woodland to see exactly how many. Also hoping a little that they might attract some lions. Liam's going to pan around and show you. So he's keeping going in sort of 180 degrees, and there's quite a lot behind us still as well, but completely around us we are surrounded by this herd of Cape buffalo. So on the topic of oxpeckers, they obviously don't nest on the buffalo. So Pamela would like to know, where do oxpeckers make their nests? In dead trees generally, Pamela, in the holes in dead trees that could have been made by other birds or other things. That's where they will make their nests. There's a nice little one coming quite close to us here. Now buffalo calves have quite a unique drinking style. So it enables them, because buffalo herds are so mobile, as you can see this little guy walking behind the female, they will often drink from between the back legs while the female is moving. And there's very, very few animals where the youngsters suckle while on the move. So a very, very interesting adaptation. And that's because these buffalo herds move such vast distances. So obviously we've watched a really fascinating lion on buffalo interaction last week, and Genevieve from New York is wondering how the dynamics would work in such a big herd like this as opposed to open areas and closed areas. Well, Genevieve, I think this would be absolute pandemonium if the lions ran in here. I think lots of things wouldn't know what was going on, and there would be chasing of lions and lions chasing buffalo, buffalo chasing lions. But I think they're probably a better chance of success in these thicker woodlands, where there's in open areas the buffalo might be more organized in their defense. Where there's here, I think they wouldn't really know what was going on. It would be very, very difficult for them because of how thick this woodland is. So, quite interestingly, there's obviously quite a dominant hierarchy within the buffalo herd. Oh, here comes some oxpeckers. And we're looking for a pale rump as they fly off. I unfortunately didn't see any, I only saw dark rumps there. But as I was saying about buffalo herd hierarchy amongst the bulls, there is a very, very definite hierarchy amongst the breeding bulls that are with the, see if he lands. He's doing the same. There's a lilac-breasted roller that's following the herd, taking advantage of all the insects a big herd of buffalo like this would disturb. Okay, we're going to try sneak up on this roller while I continue to chat a little bit about buffalo herd hierarchy. I can see the roller in the tree up to the left, and there's obviously fork-tailed drongo there as well. And I think the roller is doing the same as the drongo, taking advantage of all the insects that are being disturbed by this monster herd of buffalo. And there's him. Try to get a, how's that? Work. Here we go. Fortunately in a bit of shadow. So while we stay with this buffalo herd and see where they're heading, let's go from one roller to another.
Well, this isn't something that happens often, and at least you did get a brief glimpse of another beautiful lilac-breasted roller, the same bird you were viewing with Brent. And that's the great thing about being out on safari. All these little things happen that we never really can be sure of, and this is an example of one. I wonder when last on Safari Live we linked from roller to roller. And we actually came here specifically looking for this one. They're quite territorial. And we know there's one that hangs out in this general area, and we thought we'd have a look for it before taking you across to the hyena den, which is just a minute or two away. It's a perfect time in the afternoon to expect a little bit of activity at the den, provided some of the adults are there. So let's go and have a look. Nobody else has been there this afternoon, so we will be the first people to check out what the scenario is out there. And if it was anything like this morning, we're in for a treat. Brent's had a wonderful morning there. And over the last week or so, we've been having some really interesting sightings at the den. So let's hope that happens again now. Thankfully, the wind died down early on this morning. It was incredibly windy, and that continued till about midday. These Franklin on our left appear to have been playing around a little bit with one another, so let's keep an eye on them. And it's at this stage of the evening when we could expect to see them possibly dust bathing in the road, getting ready for bed. It's kind of often a morning and evening ritual for a lot of the birds, and they'll ruffle their feathers on these sandy roads, which will basically provide a bit of a substrate on their hair, or their feathers rather, which helps them to glean off little mites and parasites. But it doesn't look like we're in luck this time to see the dust bath. I guess you could kind of relate it to an exfoliator of sorts. Well, that's possibly not the best example, but you can imagine it just layers a fine layer of dust which gives something for their beaks to bind onto, and therefore preen off and pull off little parasites from their body and from their feathers. And not only parasites, but also little burrs and little bigger pieces of dirt that they will gather along the way as they feed on the ground. In the next few moments we will know whether or not the den site is active. Bless you, Andrew.
Thank you, sir.
Well, that's not looking too promising from the get-go. That could change. Come on, hyena, where are you hiding? Well, sadly, it looks like nobody is home right now. That could change. Or the adults may have already headed off on their evening pursuit. But in that termite mound is where all the action goes down, and in the surrounding areas, but that's where the tiny little black cub will be hiding at the moment, and also the three smaller sub-adults in all likelihood. Not sub-adults, they're still cubs, probably 7 to 8 months older than the newest edition. It won't be worth us waiting here. We could be waiting a very long time before it becomes active again. So let's rather go and look for something else. I'm thinking of driving down a road called Ximhungwe Alley, Leopard Alley. Ximhungwe is a leopard in Shangaan, the local language. And a lot of the names of roads and areas within this parts of Djuma and Arathis are named after local, or the names of animals in the local tongue. A road in Shangaan is in Ndlela. So Ximhungwe Ndlela would be the full Shangaan term for Ximhungwe Alley, I guess. Been chatting a lot about newcomers to the WildEarth team. Stefan, who's rejoined on a full-term basis now, as well as Jamie, who you'll be meeting in the next couple of days, one of the new presenters, who some of you may have met on her interview drive. But there's somebody who's going to be coming back who's not a newcomer that Brit is interested to know about, and that's James, the other presenter. He's been in Russia for the last few weeks on leave, and he'll be returning on the 20th, I believe, of this month. So not too much longer to wait, Brit, until we have a very humorous character back on the ground. And I'm sure a lot of you are not only looking forward to his humor and his knowledge of the bush, but also his skills with the guitar for the fireside chats. We've certainly been missing him for all of those reasons. So here's Ximhungwe Alley. It was never actually a road before, an official road, and there was a very vague 2-track that ran into a point, and then another one from the other road that runs perpendicular to the road we've just come off. But they didn't connect the two until Wiem and I one afternoon decided to rearrange some of the furniture out here, and we've made a clear path. So now we've been using it more often. This might work well. Please don't go anywhere, little barbets. Well, we are enjoying the added zoom on this new camera, even though it does come with other difficulties. The zoom is certainly one of its strengths, and a lot of you have been getting some awesome close-up screenshots of certainly the oxpeckers, and this crested barbets and the golden afternoon light is going to make for a good subject, although it keeps hopping away, 3 or 4 hops at a time. I'm wondering if it may do its dust bath. We may not see the Franklin, but the crested barbet might get us lucky. Awesome. Okay, well, let's continue because it's getting quite far off now. I wonder what it's looking for. Possibly some food or a nice sandy patch. Oh, he thought about having a dust bath there. He almost found a patch good enough for him to bathe himself in. Come on. There's also a crested Franklin. Maybe we can see them both doing it simultaneously. Whoa, that wasn't very nice. The Franklin just chased off the barbets. Oh well. The barbet's flown off, the crested Franklin's disappeared off into the bush, and something else is about to disappear, so before it does, we're going to hurry you back across to Brains.
That's a big bull. So welcome back everyone. We're still with this incredibly large herd of buffalo. They are unfortunately crossing across our boundary. I think they're heading down to the water, which is to the east of us. But if we pan off this way, there's an incredible shot into the setting sun of a nice big herd of buffalo. Remember to grab some nice screenshots with that beautiful backlighting. So we were chatting about sort of hierarchy in buffalo bulls within breeding herds before we crossed across to Scotty. And there's a definite linear hierarchy amongst the adult buffalo bulls within the herd. And the way they control this is far more from threat displays rather than actual physical huge fighting. And what they do is that big sort of snort and cock their head, and a lot of that sort of is to try avoid physical fighting in similar way to what the Nyala do, except they obviously do lock horns quite often, but it's not very serious. It's more of a threat display, and they do back down quite quickly from that if there's there's the white-faced female again. Well spotted, Vim. Where is she? There she is. Quite an interesting looking female. With that deformed horn and white hair on her face. There she is. Quite an interesting looking female. With that deformed horn and white hair on her face. Such a stunning sight. So we pretty much half the herd has crossed the road, and we're sitting in the middle with the other half as they slowly move east. And you can hear as they move through the grass. You guys must be getting some fantastic screenshots with that sun behind. Hello, old girl. So we're just going to keep quiet so you can actually hear the noise that a buffalo herd sounds like when you're in the middle of them. We just spotted a female who's got a very unusual wound. She looks quite old. I was using my binoculars to have a look at it. Very, very unusual wound. I don't think I've ever seen an injury like that on a buffalo. The only thing that can happen, it must have started off as a much smaller wound, and then, oh shame, she's really not in good nick. Very old female. I've never ever seen a wound like that, and I've seen many thousands of buffalo. I think it must be that she's got an infection in there that's caused it to eat away like that. And that is a very unusual wound. Actually, I'll try to get a better picture of it so I can ask, see if anyone else has ever seen anything like that. Very, very strange wound. I'm absolutely puzzled about how she could have got that. We are literally completely surrounded by the buffalo now. There's some about a meter or two behind Wiem, and both to the left and right and in front of us is just buffalo everywhere. I really love spending time with these big herds of buffalo. It is a complete change from the old bulls. There's always something happening. There's action, there's babies, there's arguments, there's mating. It is absolutely fantastic. You hear the little disagreements around us. I'm just keeping quiet and hoping we can hear a little disagreement. They do sound quite comical. Out of the way, youngster. It's probably her sub-adult calf there. So we had a nice look at that female. I think Wiem is trying to spot her again, but I think she's moved across the road already. We had that spotty face, the white hair on the face, and a deformed horn. And Sue in North Carolina is wondering if that makes her more or less attractive to the bulls, or if it just doesn't matter. Sue, I think with the buffalo, it just doesn't matter. To the bulls, they would just try to get as much of their genes out there as possible. I'm still checking very carefully every oxpecker I get the chance at to see if there is a yellow bull, but there don't seem to be that many oxpeckers, and that's probably because of the time of the day. A lot of them would have headed home already. We had a little disagreement there. There's actually quite a few different bird species taking advantage of this buffalo herd. Obviously, as always, the fork-tailed drongos are present, getting any insects that are disturbed by this herd. And then also we saw that lilac-breasted roller. And right on the edge I can actually see some white-crowned shrikes doing the same. They're a bit far to show you with the camera, but quite a few different birds will be taking advantage of this. Oh, isn't that beautiful with that backlight as the sun dips? It's almost a magical light. just incredible to be able to sit here quietly and watch these buffalo. There's a female with another deformed horn. So we chat a lot about TB in the lions, and quite often they've contracted it from the buffalo. And Deb in Ohio was wondering, how does TB manifest itself in the buffalo? Deb, as far as I'm aware, it doesn't show any outside sort of things that we can spot, and also it seems to have almost zero effect on buffalo. So even though there are carriers, the disease itself doesn't do much to it. Oh, there's a very sweet little buffalo who's popped opposite us. Tiny. Probably a couple of weeks old. So if any of our viewers have ever spent any time on a big cattle farm or beef farm, that is probably the closest description to what it smells like. And Gilly was wondering that, and it does. It smells like a big herd of cows. And also, she said in the chats, there's been mention that the sound of their hooves moving through the grass and their eating sounds a bit like rain. Well, I'm not sure if I hear the rain. I don't know. What about you, Vian? To me, it sounds very much like a herd of buffalo. And it looks like they're going to be quite kind to us and possibly hang around long enough that we can actually catch a buffalo sunset. And isn't that wonderful? I haven't had a nice big buffalo herd sunset for quite some time. I think one of my most fond memories was walking in northern Botswana with my dad, way up on the north on the Kwanda River at about this time of the year. And it was about this time of the day, and this big herd, I mean an absolutely monster herd of buffalo, probably around close to 2,000 buffalo. So imagine this is about 400 buffalo, and there we were on the edge of a herd of about 2,000, and we walked up to this big termite mound that had a beautiful big jackalberry in it, right on the edge of an oxbow lagoon coming off the Kwanda River. And we sort of climbed up to the top of the termite mound into the tree and sat there looking west as this huge herd of buffalo came down to drink in the sunset. And so whenever I see buffalo in the sunset, I always have very, very fond memories of younger years. It actually looks like they might be going to rest here for the evening. So what they do is they will, because they've stopped moving so much, they might not be heading to the waterhole. I think they've decided it's a bit more open here than where we were. So they're going to probably bed down and ruminate for the night. there's a buffalo that's got an itch, and it's found a convenient bush to scratch that itch. No, it's finished scratching. There's another one scratching just behind him. So Donna and Sue have noticed the horns. It seems to be that predominantly the deformed horns are the right horns, and they were wondering, is it possible that why is this, and was it a birth defect, and is it possible that all the buffalo with the deformed horn are related? Well, it's very difficult to say. I did see some buffalo with deformed left horns, and what this could be from is, I think, injuries when they're very young and the horn is still developing. They might have knocked it or bumped it, and that's generally what leads to deformed horns rather than birth defects. But whether they're all related, I think that's a very difficult thing to say. I would say probably not. I would say it's completely random. It could be an injury from when they're young, or sometimes they might break their horn at some point in their life, and that can also cause the horn to grow in quite strange ways. Just gonna move off the road quickly. Someone wants to get past us. Hi. So isn't it fantastic? Isn't this absolutely spectacular? So we're having a look at some of these little guys, and you can see those little stumps of the horns. And Carla in Michigan was wondering, at what age do the little buffalo start developing their horns? There'll be little nubs that are present at birth, and they do grow quite quickly after that. But there are tiny little sort of bumps that are present at birth already. There we go. I think Viam's found a little one somewhere. Quite an old one having it, or an older one having a drink, and you can see those little horns. So it looks like the first of the buffalo is lying down. So this does definitely look like the area where they're going to bed down for the evening and ruminate. So, in the research I've read about the Kruger, there's actually a very high mortality rate for buffalo calves in this greater Kruger area, with only about 6 to 8 individuals making it to maturity. After that, when they become a bit older, so after 2 years old, that mortality drops quite heavily. So we just have a look there. There's another little buff who's having a scratch. He's found the exact same bush as the other one, just not using it for his head, using it for his belly. Oh, using it all the way down. Is that nice? Oh, it looks like a bit guilty, like he's been caught doing something wrong. And there's that first buffalo cow who's bedded down. I can see a few more that have bedded down further away from us. That's the first one close to us that has bedded down. And there's some more lying down. They're starting to lie down in sort of groups, and they'll lie down in these quite tight little groups, and There we go, there's a buffalo atop a termite mound at the back there. He's deciding he had a short man syndrome, decided she needed to get a bit higher and have a look down. And quite often with buffalo herds you will see a few of them climbing on top of termite mounds, sometimes to get the grazing up there, and sometimes just to have a look around. Just going to move quickly so we can get that last little bit of sun as it dips behind there with some buffalo behind it. So the sun's disappearing past the horizon and the buffalo are starting to lie down. I think they probably are going to rest up here for the majority of the evening if they don't get harassed by lions. So we've seen quite a lot of babies. So obviously birthing happens quite often and frequently in these big herds, and it happens throughout the year. But there is a peak in the rainy season. But Pat from Nebraska was wondering, do the females stay with the herd while they give birth, or do they move away? Now, Pat, I've seen both. Sometimes, and they generally tend to give birth when the whole herd is resting. So sometime during the night or the early morning, or during their sort of midday siesta, which they do take quite seriously, buffalo. So in a big herd environment like this, they will stay with the herd. The buffalo calves need a couple of hours. Oh. And that poor little guy is, while he's drinking, oh, just missed it. Mom actually, while he was busy drinking, Mom went to the loo on his head. So unfortunately for him, he got defecated on. But you can see how vigorously he's tugging at those udders, trying to get them to stimulate milk. He's a thirsty little chap. So it takes a few hours for the youngsters to sort of get upwardly mobile, and it's not uncommon that a female and calf can be left behind by a big breeding herd as it moves on. So quite interestingly, when buffalo have their first calf at about 5 years, they'll then alternate birthing years. So they'll have a calf this year and then not next year and that. But as they get older, they start to produce more and more calves and produce them yearly. Obviously, maybe that's once they become better mothers or fully developed. So we're going to cross across to Scotty, who's up on some higher ground, and he's going to show you an animal-free sunset, and we'll be back with the buffalo herd a little later.
Welcome back, everyone. And we had a nice high point on the northeastern corner of Djuma, looking out over a beautiful scene as the sun sets. Sounds like you've come from one beautiful scene to another, and a large herd of buffalo and late afternoon light, I can only imagine, has created some wonderful scenes for you. So we're not going to keep you away from Brent and all his action for too long, but did just want to show you the sunsets. We haven't seen too much and actually have raced up into this area, not only to show you the sun, but there are reports of a female leopard who we have yet to show you, called the Nkanyeni female. She is at Buffelshoek Dam, but so are lots of vehicles. So we are currently in the queue, and hopefully we will get a chance to see her. There's a chance she's going to cross out of our property. The last I heard, she was heading north, but there is a slim chance. So if you'd like to see a new leopard, don't go anywhere. There's no guarantees, but there is a chance. Anyway, we're going to send you back to Brent's, and we'll keep you updated on Nkanyeni.
And you can see that. Welcome back. Sorry, everyone. But I say, Liam and I are just looking quite carefully. You can see even those biting flies affect the ears of the buffalo. And I'm quite happy. If we were sitting at this time of the evening in a big buffalo herd like this in the summer months, I think Liam and I would be swatting flies for our lives. We would literally be taking off. There'd be so many of them. And there we can see that very distinct rumination. So you'll notice that the top jaw is solid and attached to the skull, whereas the bottom jaw is loose. And with the ruminant, they eat from side to side, and that's just crushing up all that grass that they've been eating all day, and they're bringing it up from their stomach, and they will keep eating that through the night, and that's to get the maximum amount of nutrients out of that. And you can actually, if we go have a look, oh no, she swallowed it. Of course she did. Let's try this little one here. They bring up a bolus, or a ball of grass. And this one's actually brought up quite a big one. You can see it sticking out the side of the mouth as she chews. Looking a bit self-conscious now. Why are you guys pointing a camera at me? So you can definitely see that the animals are stopped here. We've got another. Well, it looked like he was about to start drinking, but then Mom lifted her tail. I thought we might get another baby being bombed from above. So we're sitting in a herd of about 400, I would guess, which is a very big herd for this area. But Daniel, over email, would like to know what is the maximum and minimum herd sizes. Well, in the Sabi Sands, I think an extremely large herd would be around 1,000, and that goes for the whole greater Kruger area. But if you go further north in Africa, particularly into Zimbabwe and Botswana, much larger herds have been recorded. Zimbabwe's biggest herd was 2,500 buffalo in one herd, whereas in Botswana, I know of a herd that was over 4,000, and that actually happened in the concession I grew up in. So I actually was lucky enough to see that herd, and you could literally drive through them for half an hour. And the one night we were actually following lions hunting, and we got two different sets of lion prides hunting this massive herd from either side, and they sort of met in the middle, had a huge fight, and then lions up trees who didn't know each other. They went from the same pride, so they didn't know what to do. They knew the buffalo were trying to kill them. They'd try to smack each other up in the tree. So very, very interesting. And we know how many buffalo were in that herd because it was such a big herd. The game department sent through a helicopter that took aerial photographs while they were on the open floodplains. And then some poor scientist, or probably assistant or research scientist, had to sit there and count every single individual buffalo on those big massive photographs. So they took aerial photographs and stuck them together, and then some poor, I'm sure, junior researcher scientist had to sit there and go 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, it's not. You get to 499 and you lose count. So there's someone here again, so I'm just going to move off the road so they can go past. Hang on a second. Cheers, enjoy. Yeah, well, that's actually quite interesting. We're going to kill two birds with one stone here. So you see these, quite a lot of the buffalo, especially as they get a bit older, these white patches below the eye become quite visible. Those are pre-orbital glands, same as you would get in quite a lot of antelope and bovids. But also very interestingly, and that was a question from Rona in Michigan. So welcome, Rona, on this buffalo-filled sunset safari. And I don't know, those of you who were on the sunrise safari might know the answer to this, but look at that. This cow was blind in a English collective noun for a herd of buffalo. Who can remember what it is? And you can send your answers through to questions@wildearth.tv, and you could use the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. So if anyone's joined us, you're able to ask us questions about what we're seeing on those two platforms, as well as the fact that we are live. You are seeing this huge herd of buffalo at the same time as us. And if you are new, welcome on the back of the vehicle. Really great to have you along. And if you're a regular, it's always wonderful to have you, and we really do appreciate your questions. So I think these buffalo are going to bed down, so it's about time we see what else we can find. So we'll say good night to the buffalo herd, and come visit us on Juma tomorrow. So we saw a really unusual wound on a buffalo cow today, a type of wound I've never seen. I've seen a lot of buffalo. Oh, damn spoonbills! There we go, we got a pair of African spoonbills, and we can see that spoon on their beak quite distinctly there as they're flying off to roost, probably been feeding in one of the dams. So for those of you who are keeping your bird list, there's a possible another species to add, African spoonbill. Got a very specially designed beak for feeding on little microorganisms in the water. And off they disappear. So sorry about that. Couldn't resist when we saw them. Don't see them. We do see them from time to time, but not the most common bird we see out here. So we saw this buffalo cow with a really strange wound. I'm just going to take one last peruse, see if I can spot her. Nope. She was very old, and she was losing quite a lot of condition, and that wound was on her back right side, and very strange. It almost looked like someone had taken a scalpel and cut out a piece of her hide, which I don't think happened. And it's been puzzling me, and there's been some speculation from you guys out there about what could possibly have done it. And I think Rona was asking, was it possibly a lion? And then there was another sort of idea that it looks like it almost could be a fire wound. I'm not so sure. I don't think it was either of those. It didn't. A lion wound is quite distinct, and if it's from the claws, it's generally a deep gash from where the claws have hooked in. It's very visible. I've got a feeling it could be a fungal disease that's actually eating the flesh there, and that can happen. But I have taken some pictures of it, and it has completely puzzled me. But I'll definitely ask Steph and Scott, and if they've seen anything like that before. If not, we'll try to find someone who might have some information on that. But I certainly have never seen that, and I've seen many thousand buffalo across Africa, from Tanzania, Kenya, all the way south down to South Africa, and I've never seen any wound that looks anything like that. To me, it looks like it possibly could be fungal or bacterial disease rather than an injury from fire or a lion. Let's go carry on and see what else we can find. Stations leaving that Ximhungwe of Nyari, resting up on Triple M, about 500 meters to the south of the safari driveway sign. So what a wonderful thing. This is only the second big herd of buffalo I've got to spend time with since I've been at Djuma. So overindulged? No, I didn't. We spent a wonderful afternoon while they were moving, trying to keep up with them, looking for yellow-billed oxpeckers. Unfortunately, we didn't see them. I think we might have got there a little bit late in the day, and a lot of the oxpeckers would have moved off. But we're now going to slowly make our way back towards Djuma and see what's been happening in the north. And always keep a close lookout in this area. It is a favorite hangout of Sindile's, and he hasn't been seen for a while, and no one saw any tracks today. I know there were tracks of possibly of shadow or of a female leopard in this area, but that buffalo herd actually walked through and obliterated the tracks, which makes finding it very difficult. So back to the collective noun game and the old sort of Victorian collective nouns for animals, and I just asked what it was, and Lillian Mary was spot on. It is an indomitability of buffalo. So very rah-rah from the good old Victorian days. I must say, when you go out into the African savannah and you are looking at an indomitability of buffalo. So moving on from the indomitability, I wonder what other collective nouns we can find. So while we make our way slowly back towards Djuma and keep a lookout for shadow in Sindile, we're going to hand you back over to Scotty, and he can let you know what he's been up to for the last little while.
Hello everyone, and I don't have the best news because the female leopard that was at Buffalo's Hook Dam didn't take very long to cross straight north out of our property into Buffalo's Hook. But it wasn't in Kanyeni as some of the guys initially thought. It was actually Karula, who we haven't seen for quite some time. I think since the 4th of July was the last time we saw her. And at least we know her whereabouts, and she could possibly pop back into Vuyatela later tonight after she's done her rounds in Buffalo's Hook. And she really does appear to have a very large territory at the moment, and sadly quite a lot of it is not on Djuma as it used to be. She used to have seen a lot more around here, but we're seeing less and less of her. but at least she is still around. We were standing by in that same spot where we had a brief view of the sunset with you, hoping that she may head in another direction, and then have continued back onto Central Road, heading back towards the Ximhungwe Dam. Really is a wonderful stage of the evening now. I always get excited at this hour, I'm not sure why. It's not really a hugely increased chance of seeing something, but I for some reason think there is. And on this road that meanders quite a lot, every corner we go around, it'll be quite exciting. What's around this one? Some old elephant dung, okay. Not too exciting, but there was an elephant here doing its business quite some time ago. Quite often for me, just seeing signs of animals, their dung or their tracks, is almost as good as seeing the animal, because you can let your imagination wander off and think about what the animal was doing there. Earlier on we had a beautiful scene at the Ximhungwe Dam with some large Cape buffaloes really close to us, and that's where you got the great visuals of the red-billed oxpecker as well. And there were monkeys and a bataleur, an eagle, in the area. And Dennis is asking if there's any chance that that bataleur would prey on the monkeys. If that was the case, we would have heard the monkeys alarm calling very loudly at it, which they didn't. So bataleur are predatory, but they will also scavenge quite a lot, and the prey that they catch is often quite small and or slow moving, like monitor lizards. Animals that can take down, or at least eagles that can take down vervet monkeys, include the crowned eagle, which would be very unlikely to see here because they're like thick forests, but I have seen one in my just over 4 years of guiding here now. But the martial eagle, one bird that does occur more frequently here, that we do see from time to time, as well as the Verreaux's eagle owl, will both be able to predate the vervet monkey. Other than that though, no other avian predators will be able to pull off that stunt, and that's why the monkeys were so relaxed. They let off a loud when they see either predatory birds that could harm them, or leopard, lion, wild dog, a lot of the larger predators. It's something that I really wish eagles hunting. Actually, it's very difficult to film birds hunting, especially in thick bush like this. But with television in the way, who knows, maybe we will be able to, in the future, get better insight into the hunting habits of the birds of prey. Obviously, just following them is difficult unless you can fly. It's a lot easier to follow a lion or leopard on the ground that we can drive along next to. But the birds of prey, there's very little footage and knowledge on their hunting. That's something that I always wonder about. The African hawk eagle is an incredible predatory bird. One other eagle that I saw earlier. They actually often hunt in tandem with their partner. It's something that I've yet to see, but I look forward to the day that it happens. And one of them basically flies low through the bush, trying to flush prey up into the sky. And they're so worried about this low-flying object that they are unaware of their other African hawk eagle circling high up that can plummet down and strike the prey from above. But they're around, and so are we, so we could potentially get lucky. Brent, I'm on Central Hyena Road. A negative, you closer, so hurry on there. Well, there's some exciting news, but I don't know what it is, but Brent's rushing off somewhere. All I know is that he's closer to the action than we are. So even though Karula disappeared, there could be another leopard or some kind of predator, I'm guessing, that Brent is rushing off to. It sounds like it's in a tricky area because it's close to our northern and western boundary, so depending on where that animal goes, we may run out of luck. But Brent is rushing along there and he should be there shortly. And speaking of predators, Mavis is asking a question about the Ximhungwe pride, and she would like to know, has there been any sign of them today, and how is young Junior doing? And as far as I'm aware, they are on Torchwood to the east of us, not far away, still digesting the buffalo, and Junior seems perfectly okay, so nothing to worry about, Mavis. Viewers in Houston is interested to know, is there a way to be able to distinguish between male lion and female lion vocalizations? Because she's heard both but is battling to differentiate. And Julia, it's incredibly difficult. I have heard both roaring countless times, yet I'm never in a situation where I'm confident to be able to distinguish between male and female. It'll be interesting to ask Brent, he may feel differently, but I don't think there's any easy way of telling the difference between the audio. But my hearing's not as good as Brent and the rest of the guides. I'm going deaf already, so maybe I'm the wrong person to be asking, but I certainly haven't noticed any way of being able to safely distinguish between the two. You're interested in the different lions that we see in this area, and our football experts is asking if there's any updates on the Styx males. As Brent told you, the one young male did get into a bit of an altercation and isn't looking too clever, but I'm not too sure where they are. They were last seen chasing the Solala breakaway pride off a kill that they made, a fully grown giraffe, to the west of Arathusa, and since then I'm not sure where they've gone. But while everyone's interested on the updates online and what's happening, the Birmingham boys were also seen this morning, not far from Arathusa or Juma, just kind of north of us in this little funny section of the reserve, and they were seen chasing some young male lions, 3 young males and a lioness. So they're also in action doing their business in the area, sadly not on our property but in the general area. And I'm guessing the next few days we're going to get lucky with the sighting of the Birmingham boys. They are buffalo hunting machines, and in November they killed 3 buffalo within 3 days, one of which was captured live. The last buffalo, I guess, to be caught live was with Peter Pretorius before Brent's recent one with the Ximhungwe Pride. We're just going to stop here for a moment to listen and relax and enjoy, so put your feet up and enjoy the beautiful sounds and sight that we're about to enjoy. And it's not only the lions that a lot of the viewers are interested in, but also some updates on the leopards. And the latest one that we've received is asking about Ximhungwe and quarantine. 2 male leopards approaching the kind of 3 years mark in terms of age, and we got to see both of them quite a lot in the earlier parts of this broadcast, from November all the way up until about May, more April than May. But since then they've moved off, and they've been spending a lot more time to the east of us on a property called Chitwa. But we have had tracks of what looks to be possibly young males, and we simply may have just not been able to track them down when they have come back to Djuma. But I think they're going to be avoiding this area. Tingana, a large male leopard, is spending more time here, and he's been seen even further east of Djuma than where we can go. So they're avoiding the confrontation between their father and another dominant male. But we're going to send you back to Brent. It sounds like he's got to whatever he was racing off to. So enjoy, and I wonder what it is.
Welcome back, everyone. Really exciting. We are here with lions that I don't think we've ever seen before. There's been quite a lot of pandemonium that those Birmingham boys caused to the west. This, I think, is a segment of the Sparta Pride that were on a buffalo kill to the west of us, and they have been chased and harassed by the Birminghams this morning, and I think they have split, and it looks like we have a sub-adult male and some lionesses here. I'm not 100% sure yet. I'll try and get some photographs and send it off to the guys down south who might know these lions a lot better than us, but definitely far from home. So very interesting, and always great to see new lions. So you can see the one on the right is definitely a young male. You can see the beginnings of a mane, probably not too old yet, probably even, I'd say even probably still under 2 years old, but getting close. And they've had a really tough day. So from what the update I heard is that they killed 2 young buffalo in a property far to the west of us, and we've had those tracks of those Birmingham boys today crossing in that direction, and what happened is, I'm not sure whether those lions might have heard them kill the buffalo last night, and I'm not sure how many members of this pride were in that area. I will try to find out more information after drive, and then we can update you on the sunrise safari. But apparently some of them did take a bit of a beating from those Birmingham lions, and they are very far from home at the moment and trying to catch up on some rest. They've probably had a very, very tough day, probably very stressed, not knowing where they are, and it seems to happen quite often. We've had 2 prides from the west who've been chased by males and have ended up almost in this exact position. Last time we didn't get to see them, it was the Ximhungwe pride. This time we have got to see them, and it'll be fascinating to see where they move from here tomorrow, from the tracks, whether they start the long road south to the Sand River, or they hang around in this area. Obviously there are lots of new smells and there are lots of other lion scent marks here, so obviously they're not going to be feeling very comfortable in this area. So I'm just going to try to get hold of the guys on the Western Channel, see if they've got any update for me about these lions. Liam, do you copy? Liam, just to let you know, we've got 3 Ngala we don't know on Triple M, just to the sort of northwest of One Eye Pan Junction. 1 young male and 2 lionesses from what I can see. Confirm those are the animals that the Birminghams chased this morning. Sorry Liam, you're breaking quite badly, I didn't copy that. Sorry, reading you 0 out of 5. Is there any possibility that another station can try translate that for me? So I think Liam's right on the other side of the western section, so I'm getting very bad radio breakup. I will keep listening to see if we can get an update from him about who these lions are. So these lions, whoever they might be, are probably quite a long way from their traditional home range. You do sometimes get nomadic lion prides, but their success rate in raising cubs is far less than your sort of sedimentary prides. But Kirsty's asking, do you think if they are from the spotted pride or maybe the Ximhungwe pride, they'll be able to find their way home? I'm quite confident they will be. I think the biggest challenge for them is getting home without bumping into other lions. Lions take great offense to finding new lions in their areas, and it can be very, very dangerous, specifically for that young male there. But it'll be very interesting to see what happens and see which way these tracks go and which way these animals move. I mean, there is that slight possibility it could be a pride of lions that we don't know at all that have moved in from either the Manuletti or the Kruger. There has been quite a few recorded cases of nomadic lion prides that move over vast home ranges, but again, they don't generally last too long and have a great trouble in raising cubs. Standing by. Copy. Thanks very much, Shawnee. Really appreciate it. Just to let you know, there are 3 stations here at the moment if anyone from the west is interested. So guys, I was telling you a big fat lie earlier. It's not the lions that were chased by the Birminghams. It is the Ximhungwe pride. I just got an update that the Sparta animals were chased south, so they went back home. Now the Ximhungwe pride's quite an interesting story. They've sort of been, I don't know the full story yet, but I will do some research on it this evening. They've been broken up and down, and there are only these 3 sub-adults left, and they are doing quite well considering. I think the Majenga lions killed quite a few of the lionesses in this coalition, in this pride, but I will try find out as much as possible about the Ximhungwe pride. So this is a new pride. I have found their tracks in this very area, and they seem to be slinking on the edges of all the different lions' home ranges to try avoid getting into a bust up with some of the resident prides in the north. But they have been moving fast distances from right near the So since this pride has been sort of decimated by the Majenga lion coalition, they have become a semi-nomadic pride. And Dennis from Massachusetts is wondering whether they would scent mark in this area to try to feel safe. I think it's highly unlikely. I think they would try to keep their presence in this area as limited as possible. And scent marking would be sort of a direct, not challenge, but leaving far too much evidence. Not evidence is the incorrect word, but I don't think they would feel safe enough is probably the truth, and they wouldn't want to attract any undue attention. And we saw the Ximhungwe pride, Small Sticks pride, scent marks and then change their direction completely a few days ago and headed towards where the sticks left. So I think they would be trying to avoid that. I'm quite sure the other lions, if they come within a day or two, will be able to smell that these lions have been here. But I definitely don't think that these lions would take the chance to scent mark. But then again, I could be proved completely wrong because we write the books and read them, and the animals can do whatever they want. So, as I said a little bit earlier, they all are, as far as I know, sub-adults. None of them have reached adulthood fully yet. And Purple Rain noticed that, so well done, Purple Rain. They are all sub-adults. And John Boy was just questioning whether they could be part of the Sparta Pride, but we've just managed to fix that sort of conundrum out, and they are the Ximhungwe Pride. So traditionally from far southwest of us, but they've been sort of in a bit of trouble with the Majenga lion coalition recently. We've caused and killed quite a few of them. I will find out exactly, but this is definitely a new pride for me, and I think could be a new pride for a lot of you guys at home. So it is exciting. Unfortunately, I don't think their future is very bright. Very young animals in a very highly dense lion, or densely populated lion area, so it could be quite difficult for them. We're gonna try and move around now. We'll just wait for the other vehicles to move out of the area, and then we'll try to see if we can get a better look at some of them. So while we reposition to try to get a better view of the Ximhungwe pride, what's left of them, we're going to cross back to Scotty, and he's going to give you a quick update and goodbye of what he's been up to. But really exciting new lions, and we'll see you just now.
2.
Welcome back everyone, and I'm going to keep this short because it's really exciting stuff over with Brent. I wonder which lion these could be, but thanks so much for following this afternoon's sunset safari. It's always good fun to have you with us, and I'm already looking forward to the sunrise session tomorrow. Back to Brent, and thanks to Andrew and Nikki and Tara for all the help that they've helped with this afternoon and getting this broadcast to you. We'll see you all on the next safari.
So, welcome back everyone. We've managed to get next to this young Ximhungwe female. I can't see how hungry they are. She looks like possibly to be a bit older than the other two. And now I think actually both of them, the back two, are young males. I will try find out ages and all that type of stuff from the guys who have seen them more regularly. So what an exciting find towards the end of the sunset safari. A new pride of lions, ones I haven't seen. So I stand corrected, I think that is another lioness. I just thought I saw a tuft of mane, but I can see from here she's definitely not a little boy. So it looks like two girls and a boy. So Grace and Gilly are wondering, is this a good thing that this young male has come onto the reserve? Is it possible he could join up with Junior? I'm afraid not. I think there would be very little reason for Junior to try join up with a male this young. He's quite a lot younger than Junior. I don't think he's even reached 2 years old yet, but I will confirm that definitely after drive this evening, and I'll find out a little bit more history about the Ximhungwe pride. But I don't think there'd be any reason or whatnot that Junior would. Far too young, and I think at the moment this pride's main purpose in life is survival. They are just trying to avoid running into every other lion. I'm not sure if they have a grand plan. I doubt so. I think at the moment they're just trying to get through every day to survive. So guys, isn't this fascinating? A new pride of lions. What an unexpected surprise to the end of the sunset safari. And shame they are in not the best state, and I will try find out more information about them. But what a great safari it's been. Buffalo herds, birds, and now the Ximhungwe pride. For those of you who are wondering, the Ximhungwe means batelier, so they're also named after a bird. This pride, Ximhungwe, is the Shangaan word for batelier. So really interesting to find another pride of lions. But thanks very much for joining us on the sunset safari. We really loved having you with us. We appreciate the questions, and I'm sure there's going to be lots about the Ximhungwe pride tomorrow, so I will try to do my homework tonight. So for the last few seconds of drive, thanks again for joining us. From the Wildebeest and myself, have a wonderful day or morning or evening wherever you are, and let's have a quick look at this wonderful little Ximhungwe female.